And now following up on the case of an Albuquerque teacher who avoided jail time after having sex with a 16-year-old student. That outcome in court this week caught News 13's attention, and we did some digging. What we found was a number of teachers in high-profile sex cases are not going to jail.
But some who never touched their students did get locked up. Former educators Christy Sanchez Trujillo and Patrick Matthews both got probation after admitting to having sex with their teen students, never serving a single day in prison. But for former teachers like Robert Ashley, who videotaped up the skirts of second graders, and Jacob Lawler, who sent pictures to an 11-year-old, they got jail time. We asked a criminal lawyer his take on why the sentencing difference. He says it might be based on just how young their victims were in each case.
Children that young are going to judges are obviously going to err on the side of overprotection as opposed to underprotection.
So all of the teachers are registered sex offenders, despite some not getting jail time. The DA's office sent us a statement about this story. To read it, log on to our KRQE News app. New details. A New Mexico couple was among those caught in the middle of the Aurora, Colorado shooting. They had just moved to Colorado back in 2012.
Heather, Jamie and Patricia roars, and in emotional testimony, Patricia details the chaos as she ran from the theater injured with her baby in her arms. The couple, who was with their two children, had decided to sit in the balcony. It's a decision that may have actually saved their lives. When Holmes entered the theater and began shooting, the couple dropped to the ground and covered their kids. And that's when Patricia says she was hit in the leg. In the chaos, her husband put the baby down and left, but when he came back, the baby was gone. Patricia eventually made it to the exit where she noticed her missing baby.
I looked up in the aisle and found Ethan, and I remember grabbing him, and that's when I knew that I had to get out.
Among those to also testify yesterday was Holmes' ex-girlfriend. He is accused of killing 12 people and injuring 70 others in the shooting back in 2012.
We turn now to this morning. The man accused of setting fires in the Bosque is at home instead of jail, and there's a good chance he won't see a jail cell while he waits for trial. Audie Helms was caught setting a fire in the Bosque in March, but is expected in as many as 7 over a 2-day period. He's been in jail since undergoing alcohol treatment. Tuesday in court, his attorney announced he'll complete that treatment on June 16th and be eligible for release. A judge then approved some conditions of those release.
A unanimous vote, meantime, from Bernalillo County commissioners to improve oversight conditions at MDC. That vote came last night. Commissioners plan to create a board that will investigate allegations of violence and staff misconduct. Members of the board will have expertise in law, finance, medicine, or behavioral health, but the leader of the Corrections Officers Union has some concerns. He says members should have corrections experience. 6:04, the state's attorney general wants to restore some trust between police and their communities, and he hopes reviewing officer training can help. Hector Balderas held his first meeting as chairman of the state's Law Enforcement Academy Board on Wednesday. At the meeting, he announced the formation of 2 new subcommittees. They're going to look at the challenges officers face and how to keep the board transparent. The board came under scrutiny when they shortened classes and changed deadly force training.
And this morning, police are asking for your help in finding a pair of thieves who robbed a Pizza 9 in southwest Albuquerque. It happened last month near Coors and Quell. Police said the suspect, seen wearing a hoodie, pulled a gun on the clerk, demanding money. There's video of the 2 suspects right there. The man in the red and black has a tattoo on his neck, but no description was given. Employees say the men, they did get away with about $80.
Funds have been set up for the families of victims in a recent cherry picker crash. It happened last month when 56-year-old Ken Raschik was showing kids in his Albuquerque neighborhood how to work that lift. A gust of wind sent it falling 50 feet. Raschik, his 7-year-old son, 12-year-old nephew died. 2 others were injured. The funds will help pay for funeral and hospital costs. You can donate at any Nucinda credit union.
New details this morning that kids and young teens may only need as few as 1 dose of the vaccine that's meant to protect them from a deadly cancer. This instead of several that are now required.
We're talking about the HPV, I should say, or human papillomavirus vaccine. And News 13's Catherine Mazzone poured through that study. She's here with the details.
Good morning, Adam. Right now, there are 3 licensed HPV vaccines available in the U.S. That's according to researchers. All of them require 3 doses, but the new study says that may no longer be the case. The vaccines safeguard against 2 types of HPV that can cause cervical cancer later on. There's been a lot of questions about it since the first vaccine came out. Recently, a UNM researcher teamed up with a National Cancer Institute doctor for what could be a breakthrough trial. They found that 2 doses, maybe even 1 dose, could do the trick. Great news for kids getting the shots, their parents, and for doctors. As it stands now, researchers say it's hard to get people to come back for all 3 doses of the vaccine. In fact, here in the U.S., less than 40% receive all 3. Before you start thinking of the savings in money and time for fewer doctor visits, the UNM researcher says not so fast. Why she's worried about pulling the other doses just yet, that's coming up in our next half hour. Back to you.
Catherine, thanks. HPV is the leading cause of cervical cancer, one of the top 5 most common cancers in women worldwide. Right now, the current 3-dose vaccine is administered over 6 months and effective for 10 years.
We turn now to a live look over our nation's capital this morning, where the State Department has confirmed the death of an American fighting ISIS in Syria. Officials say Keith Broomfield of Massachusetts died in battle on June 3rd. That was near the Syrian border town of Kobani. Broomfield is likely the first U.S. citizen to die fighting alongside Kurdish militias against the terror group. A former Texas police officer caught on cell phone video wrestling a teen girl to the ground at a pool party says his emotions got the better of him.
An attorney for Eric Casebold says the officer was reluctant to respond to the scene because he had already responded to 2 suicide calls that day. Casebold, who resigned Wednesday, has since apologized for his actions. Despite this, some groups are still calling for more this morning, many in the community agreeing with his decision. The resignation and apology do not mean that Casebold cannot be charged criminally for his conduct.
And take a look at this video of this massive brawl. It may help investigators track down who threw the first punch here. What was supposed to be a happy day for nearly 600 graduates in Nevada deteriorated into a massive melee in the seats at a graduation ceremony. Police say this all started over seat selection. You can see grown men punching one another as others try to push past all of this. Witnesses say some little kids were even hit. Investigators are still trying to figure out who to charge in all of this, and it may take them a while since there's so many different people involved in this.
Can you believe that? Middle when the tension should have been on the graduates. Wow.
So we start new facts this morning. The victim in one of Albuquerque's most known cold cases is now telling police she remembers details about her beating, giving them enough information to release a new sketch of the possible attacker.
Police say an unknown man nearly killed Brittany Marcel 7 years ago when she took a lunch break from Cibola High School. 2 years ago, she told News 13 she still had no memory of that attack, and now Brittany's mom, Diane, says the now 24-year-old is starting to remember.
I honestly think she knows, and her brain is releasing things as soon as her mind is able to receive it.
Police had previously released a sketch of the man, this one based on a brief glimpse that Diane got when she walked in on the attack. This is the new sketch from what Brittany now remembers. Police say she believes the man's first name may start with the letter A and that she may have known him from working at the Cottonwood Mall. There's a more than $30,000 reward for the suspect's capture, and he, they say, is likely medium-skinned, 17 to 20 years old at the time of the attack.
And police need your help this morning finding this woman. They say 55-year-old Gladys Rico Flores dropped her son off at UNM for student orientation yesterday. She never showed up for the parent meeting, though. Her husband says the Silver City woman suffers from dementia and is driving a black Toyota Prius rental with this Texas license plate DCJ 7852.
A former APD officer seen holding a suspect down while his partner kicked the man in the head will not be getting his job back. It happened in 2011. Robert Woolever was fired after video of the confrontation in the parking garage near Louisiana and Lomas surfaced. The officers said they thought suspected car thief and white supremacist Nicholas Bloom had a gun, but it turns out he was unarmed. At a hearing yesterday, the city's personnel board voted 2-1 to uphold Woolever's firing. He wasn't there, but his partner was.
Sometimes it doesn't look good, but when you look at what it is for what it is, we didn't have to shoot Nicholas Bloom that night, and we kept him from getting into a hotel full of people. We did the best we could.
John Doyle was also fired. He is now suing to get his job back.
So News 13 has learned that the man accused of shooting and killing Rio Rancho police officer Greg Benner is now facing federal gun charges. Police say Andrew Romero shot the officer during a traffic stop on Memorial Day. The feds say Romero should not have had a gun because of his criminal past. Now, if convicted, Romero faces up to life in prison for the federal charge on top of the life sentence for the murder charge.
In a newly released report, the city's inspector general found former Albuquerque police chief Ray Schultz broke city rules in his deal with Taser. News 13 first exposed Chief Schultz was making a multi-million-dollar body camera deal between the city and Taser as he was lining up a job with the company. The inspector general found the chief received meals, flights from the company, and found that Schultz was promoting Taser soon after he left APD, violating the conflict of interest ordinance. And you can read that full report yourself. Check out our past coverage right now on the KRQE News app. The U.S. House has now passed a resolution urging police departments across the country to wear body cameras. The Texas congressman who sponsored the resolution says the cameras bring transparency and protect officers against false accusations. We're staying on top of the very latest in all of this, and we will bring you that as soon as we do get new details here on KRQE. Fewer shots equal protection. New research indicates it could take fewer vaccines to protect women against a cancer-causing infection.
We're talking about the HPV vaccine. Right now, it's administered to kids and young teens and requires 3 doses over a 6-month period. But this research reveals that may not be the case any longer. News 13's Catherine Mazzone is in the Newsplex with the details on this.
That's right, Crystal. Researchers say this was an exciting study and could reduce the number of dosages to 2, maybe even 1. But a UNM researcher who worked on the trial says not so fast. More research may be needed.
There is no 2 doses, there is no 1 dose, and our data are insufficient to change the policies for administering these vaccines, meaning less than 3 doses.
That's UNM researcher Dr. Cassette Wheeler. She says only the 3-dose vaccine is available in the United States, and that's the way it should stay, at least for now. Wheeler says her and her partner's research isn't enough. The samples of women getting 1 or 2 doses were not randomized, and there weren't enough of them. She also adds there needs to be testing when it comes to how far apart the 1st and 2nd dose is administered. It's why Wheeler says while the results are promising, another study needs to be done.
Whether these particular available HPV vaccines can be delivered and provide protection with 1 or 2 doses equally or better.
The 2 authors of this study stress it's too soon for people to opt out of a 2nd or 3rd dose, or for medical professionals to administer anything fewer than 3 doses of this vaccine. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Captain. Now, while research indicates 3 doses can protect you for up to 10 years, their data for 1 or 2 doses only extends for 4 years.
Developing this morning, police now believe 2 men who escaped a maximum security prison in New York could be heading to Vermont. We're keeping on top of their search this morning. 48-year-old Richard Matt and 34-year-old David Sweat broke out over the weekend. Matt's half-brother is now warning authorities about what he knows.
He had said to me once before that he could do another 7 years, but there's no way he would do life ever. So I believe they will not take him alive. He's a thief. He's a con man. You know, any woman that comes across him, he will try to, to charm them, and he can do it.
CBS News reports that a female prison employee questioned in connection with the escape was allegedly supposed to pick up the 2 inmates when they broke out, but she did not show up.
We turn now to this baggage backlash this morning. A lot of people are not too happy that they may need to buy a new carry-on bag. A flight association just announced it's looking to adopt smaller carry-on sizes. The International Air Transport Association hopes to make the sizing universal. The new size would be 2.5 inches smaller than the current size. No U.S. airlines have signed on just yet, but 9 international airlines are already on board.
While tornado warnings in Florida have expired this morning, the storm involved in all of this did manage to cause some excitement. This one in Martin County, Florida. Journalists covering the storm caught that lightning strike right there. It hit a transformer, then caused another one to explode just down the line. Drivers right next to this thing as the lightning bolt hit.
Very terrifying.
Close call, right?
And take a look at this new dramatic video this morning. It shows the U.S. Coast Guard making a dramatic last-second rescue in Alaska. 4 men are pulled from the water just seconds before their ship is fully submerged. You can see all 4 men hanging on to that 73-foot vessel as it takes on more and more water every second. They're each taken one by one onto a life raft and then rushed to the hospital. All of them are listed in good condition this morning. Investigators don't know what caused the flooding, but say it's not weather related, and that must have been terrifying for them.
It's good they were there just in the nick of time. Save those lives. Well, so we've been getting a huge response to that Roadrunner story that we brought you. Remember that one? The guy shooting some pictures of them, unique ones. Viewers are now sending their own pictures and video in, including